Collection of Little Texts. Khuddhaka Nikàya. Vol 3. Chapter 1. Theragatha. Verses of the Elder Monks. The Theragatha consists poems written by Theras i.e. elder monks who were the foremost and fully enlightened and mostly of the time of Buddha. These infinitely self-illuminated elder monks had also reached the other shore of Nirvana/Nibbana, where there is eternal bliss and eternal life. These accounts serve as inspiration to follow in their footsteps. Theragatha-Detailed. Detailed lives and teachings of elder monks. Thera. Subhuti. Subhuti. Reborn in the time of our Buddha at Savatthi, in the family of Counselor Sumna, younger brother of Anathapindika, he was named Subhuti. Now on the day when the Jita Grove, purchased by his uncle, was presented to the Exalted One, Subhuti was present, and when he heard the path, he found faith and left the world. Receiving initiation into monkhood, he mastered the two categories. Thereafter a subject for exercise in meditation was given him to learn, and he went into the forest and practiced it. Developing insight on the basis of bliss jhana, he won arahantship. And he, teaching the path without distinctions or limitations, became chief among the monks who cultivated universal compassion. And because, while going round for alms, he fell at house after house into bliss jhana, taking his alms when he emerged from reverie, this was judged to bring great reward to his donors, and he became chief among them that were held worthy of gifts. For that reason the Exalted One said, Subhuti, Bhikkus, is the chief of my Bhikkhu disciples in universal compassion, and chief among such as are held worthy of gifts. So this great brother, traveling about the land for the good of the many, came in due course to Rajagaha. King Bimbisara heard of his coming, and went to salute him, asking him, Here, your reverence, be pleased to live here, and I will make you a living place. But, going thence, he forgot. The brother, receiving no shelter, meditated in the open air. And because of the brother's dignity, the god reigned not, so that the people were oppressed with the drought and raised a tumult at the door of the king's house. The king asked himself for what reason the god reigned not, and judged it must be because the brother was in the open. So he had a leaf hut made for him, and saluted him, saying, Be pleased, Lord, to live in this leaf hut, and so departed. The brother entered, and seated himself cross-legged on the couch of hay. Then the rain began to drip drop by drop, not in a torrent. But the brother, wishing to allay the people's fear of drought, declared the absence of any danger to himself from without, or from within, by uttering the verse. Well-roofed and pleasant is my little hut, and protected from winds, rain at your will, you God. My heart is well composed, my heart is free, and ardent is my mood. Now reign, God. Reign. Thera. Khuddhaka the Great. Khuddhaka the Elder. Reborn in this Buddha age at Savatthi, in a very wealthy clan of Brahmins, he was named Khuddhaka. When he was come of age he had learned the 3 Vedas, and perfected himself in the accomplishments of a Brahmin. He heard the Lord preach the path, found faith, and entered the monk's order. Practicing insight from the day of his initiation into monkhood he attained arahantship, together with thorough mastery of the form and meaning of the path. As proficient in this he used to question the great Theras and him of the 10 powers about them. Hence it came that he was held chief of those who were thus proficient. Then the Lord, having shown his attainments in the Vidalasutta, ranked him chief of those who were proficient in insight. He, on a later occasion, conscious of the bliss of emancipation, broke forth in this verse. Whosoever, serene and calm, dead to the world, can utter wise phrases, with wisdom uninflated. Unruffled, he did shake off naughty things, as they were forest leaves by wind god blown. Thera. Kankariveda. Kankariveda equals. He was reborn in the days of our Exalted One in a wealthy family of Savatthi. And as he stood in the outermost ring of those who went after dinner to hear him of the 10 powers preach, he believed, and upon that entered the monk's order. And he attained arahantship by way of practicing jhana. And so proficient in jhana did he become, that the Lord pronounced him chief of the Bhikkus who practiced it. His task accomplished thus. This great monk reflected on the unlikely to change tendency of his mind to doubt. Now wholly overcome, and praised the might and wisdom of the Exalted One, by which his mind was now calm and firm, saying, "See how great the wisdom is of them. Khuddhaka, as fire at midnight hour. Givers of light, givers of sight are they. To those that pass, subduing all their doubt. Thera. Pua, son of the Mantanis. He was reborn in the days of our Exalted One, in an eminent Brahmin clan, at the Brahmin village of Donavathu, not far from Kapalavathu. He was sister's son of the elder Khuddhaka, and was named Pua. And after performing all the duties of his novice initiate, he put forth every effort till he had accomplished the highest duties of a monk. He upon that went with his uncle to live near the Lord, leaving the neighborhood of Kapalavathu. And thoroughly intent in practice, he not long after became an Arahant. Now Pua came to have a following of clansmen who had also left the world. And because he himself had acquired the 10 bases of discourse, he taught his followers in that till they, too, became experts and Arahants. They upon that desired him to take them to the Lord. But he, judging it unfitting to go surrounded by them, asked them go on, and promised to follow them. They, being all fellow countrymen of him of the 10 powers, walked the 60 yojanas to Rajagaha, and, in the great vihara of the bamboo grove, found him and did obeisance to him. Now, when Bhikkus come to Buddhas, the exalted ones, it is customary for friendly greetings to be exchanged. For that reason the Exalted One asked them, "I hope, monks, that you are well and have pleasantly rested. From where you came?" "From your own country, Lord," they replied. Then he asked if there were a bhikkhu who knew the 10 subjects, saying, "Who, monks, of such fellow countrymen of mine is capable, himself a simple liver, to discourse on the simple life?" Pua, Lord, the venerable son of the Mantanis. And when the Lord went from Rajagaha to Savatya, Pua went there and, in the fragrant chamber, was taught the path. And Sariputta, desiring to meet him, went after him to dark wood, where he had gone to meditate on the Lord's words, and found him resting beneath a tree. And they discoursed of those words, and had joy of each other, Pua winning his heart by the parable of the posting by chariot. Now the Lord proclaimed Pua chief among the Bhikkus in preaching the path. And he one day, reflecting near the Lord on the emancipation he had won, bethought him, "Verily to me and many others, delivered from the round of sorrow, how great a help is communion with good men." And with joy and enthusiasm he uttered this verse: "Sure with the good consort, with them who know, who understand, who see the good. Great is the good and deep and hard to see. Subtle and delicately fine, to which the wise and brave do penetrate, even they who strenuous live and lofty vision gain." Thera+Gatha. He came to birth in the family of a clansman of the Mallas, at Anupiya. As a child of 7, he saw the Lord when the latter visited his country and home, and was so attracted that he asked his grandmother, his mother having died at his birth, if he might leave the world under the Lord. She brought him to the Lord, who asked a bhikkhu to initiate him into monkhood. And the boy, being one in whom past causes and an aspiration were taking effect, realized the 4 paths in succession, in the very act of having his curls cut off. And when the Lord left the Mallas country for Rajagaha, Dava, meditating alone, and desirous of devoting his body to the service of the monk's order, considered that he might both provide night's lodging and meals. The Lord approved his doing so, and his success in this, and his supernormal power in this, lighting the monks to their lodgings with his shining finger, is told in the Pali narrative. but it was after the baseless defamation, by which the Bhikkhus who followed Medhya and Bhumajaka sought to ruin him, had been condemned by the monk's order, that the monk, conscious of his virtuous compassion for others, uttered this verse. Once hard to tame, by taming tamed is now. Dabba, from doubts released, content, serene. Victor is Dabba now, and void of fears. Perfected he and staunch in firmness. Thus verily did the venerable monk Dabba utter his saying. Thera. Siddhavani ya. Siddhavani ya. This is the saying of the venerable monk Samhuta. He was reborn at Rajagaha as the son of an eminent Brahmin, and named Samhuta. With his 3 friends, Bhumija, Jayasena, and Abhiradana, he heard the Exalted One preach the path, and left the world to enter the order. While practicing the systematic meditation of mindfulness respecting the body, he stayed continually in Siddhavana, and thus became known as Siddhavani Ya. And seeing Bhikkhus passing by on their way to see the Exalted One, he said, "Friends, worship the Exalted One for me with speech of mine, and say to him thus his uninterrupted concern with the path. There is a monk who to cold woodland gone did live. Alone, content, in meditative ecstasy. Victorious, no more by creeping dread dismayed. He mindful watches over sense with courage high. Thus verily did the venerable monk Siddhavani Ya utter his saying. Thera. Balaya. Balaya. He, with his elder monk Tapyasa, was born in the time of our Exalted One, in the city of Pakharavati, as the son of a caravan driver. As they were conducting a caravan of carts in a pleasant glade, a muddy place checked their progress. Then a tree fairy, one of their own kin, showed himself, and said, "Sirs, the Exalted One has just attained enlightenment, and for 7 weeks remains fasting in the bliss of emancipation, seated at the root of the king's stead tree. Serve him with food. This will long make for your good and happiness." They, with joyful eagerness, waited not to prepare food, but took rice cakes and honey, and, leaving the high road, ministered to the Exalted One. Now when the Exalted One had set rolling the wheel of the path at Benares, he stayed in due course at Rajagaha. There Tapyasa and Balaya waited on him and heard him teach. The former became a lay follower, the latter left the world and mastered the 6 forms of Abhina. One day when Mara appeared to the monk in fearsome terrifying shape, Balaya, manifesting how he had passed beyond all fear, uttered a saying to Mara's discomfiture. Whosoever has chased away the Death King and his host, even as a mighty flood the causeway of frail reeds, victor is he, self-tamed. Fear comes never more. His is the goal supreme, and utter firmness. Thus verily did the venerable Balaya utter his saying. Thera. Vira. Vira. Reborn in this Buddha age at Savatthi, in the family of a minister to King Pasenadi, he was named Vira. And when, as befitted his name, he had acquired athletic accomplishments, he became a warrior. Marrying with his parents' consent, a son was born to him. Upon that, seeing the trouble in the perpetuation of life, he left the world in anguish, and putting forth every effort soon acquired 6-fold Abhina. Now when, as Arahant, he was living in the bliss of fruition, his former wife tried to lure him back in various ways. But the venerable Vira said, "This woman, desiring to seduce me, is like one wishing to shake Mount Sinai with the wing of a gnat." And he showed her how futile it was by his saying, "Once hard to tame, by taming now is tamed." Vira, from doubts released, content, serene. Victor is Vira, free from creeping dread. His is the goal supreme, and firm strength. The woman, hearing him, was deeply moved, and thought, "My husband has won to this, what good is domestic life to me?" And she went forth among the sisters, and soon acquired the 3-fold wisdom. Thera. Pilandavaka. Pilandavaka. Reborn at Savatthi as a Brahmin's son, before the Exalted One became a Buddha, they named him Pilanda, Vaka being the name of his clan. he became a recluse, and acquired the charm called the Lesser Gandhara.